Hi, today we will explain the storyline of a movie titled Poker Face, released in 2022. Okay, let's get right to the story. Five young men, Michael, Alex, Paul, Drew, and Jake, spend their summer swimming, after which they decide to play poker. Jake wins the game and is entitled to the money they bet. Michael asks for his money back to buy medicine for his mother, but Jake refuses to give it to him, saying he will only return it if Michael jumps off a cliff into the water below. The boy tries to avoid the challenge because he is afraid of heights. In the middle of the argument, another bigger boy named Victor appears and acts like a bully. He said that the money from around here belonged to him, and he extorted them, but Jake invited him to play cards for the money. Long story short, Jake won again. Victor couldn't accept defeat and tried to use violence to take the money. Jake and his friends rushed away before Victor and his gang beat them up. Full of hatred, Victor promised to get revenge on Jake someday. Years passed and Jake grew up. He was spending time at an art gallery. A woman named Elira approached him and said she had taken a photo of him earlier and wanted to paint his portrait for an art competition. Elira invites Jake for coffee to get to know each other and sign a statement allowing Elira to paint his portrait. However, if Jake doesn't want to, he can say he gives permission in a video recording. Jake agrees to do the recording, stating his name, age, profession, and the statement. Elira also asked Jake if he would like to come to her exhibition, but Jake said no. Jake grew up to be a professional poker player. He believed in Newton's principle that an object will not change its motion unless a force acts on it. For him, that was how his relationship with his childhood friends was, but life had separated them all. At the age of 57, Jake has not seen his childhood friends in a long time, except for Drew, who is still close to him and shares many similarities with him, especially his passion for playing poker. Over time, when the first personal computers emerged, he and Drew adapted all their favorite poker games into the world's first online poker system program in 1994. The massive market interest in their program suddenly made them wealthy. However, Drew discovered something else. He restructured the code from cards to countries, turning the program into military-grade surveillance software that could be sold or rifle, with their customers being governments. After years of being a player, Jake believed life was a game. He had to learn to read his opponent's moves and do whatever it took to win and secure as many victories as possible. He wanted to stay in the game as long as possible. Everything his enemies did could be a lesson. After leaving the gallery, Jake went to meet a spiritual teacher named Paye, also known as Bill, at a remote location deep in the forest. Jake had brought a change of clothes as Bill had instructed. Bill then invites him to chat. Bill says that the treatment Jake has been undergoing shows that he is not ready yet, so they will wait. While waiting, Bill invites Jake to talk, but Jake doesn't know where to start. Bill finally takes over the conversation, saying that people who come to this place want to share their experiences, seek comfort, or share their journeys. There were three types of people who often came here: those searching for their identity, addicts looking for non-stop extraordinary experiences, and those like Jake, burdened by the shadow of their own mortality. Jake admitted that Bill's guess about him was correct. He did often question his own mortality after his wife Allison passed away. He tried to find answers from the universe, but had not found a satisfactory answer. Bill said that death was inevitable. All living things must die. The answer he needed might not always be what he expected, so he advised Jake to let go of his burdens and allow the answers he needed to come to him. That night, Jake performed a ritual with Bill, who explained that for the next few days there would always be someone there with him. Bill then gave him a glass of enchanted drink and asked him to open his mind until he knew when death was approaching. During his recovery with Bill, Jake learned to let go of the painful memories of Allison's accident that had haunted him all this time. After a few days, Jake was allowed to go home. But before parting, Bill gave him a box containing truth serum that Jake could use if he was ready to open up to others. He emphasized that Jake didn't need to force himself to open up if he wasn't ready yet. A small dose of the serum would make Jake express his thoughts smoothly. He didn't need to worry that the serum would kill him. It would only make him sweat, which was beneficial for opening the mind. However, if the dose was too high, the serum would be fatal. Back at his luxurious apartment in the city, Jake lived with his only daughter, Rebecca, and his new wife, Nicole. That day, Rebecca said she needed money for clothes, and when her father gave her the money easily, Rebecca became sad and remembered her mother, who had missed out on all the luxury Jack had built. Jake comforted Rebecca and told her that her mother was with them every day. She wouldn't want Rebecca to be sad. Soon, his lawyer, Sam, arrives to take care of the will. Jake looks gloomy as he listens to Sam's explanation about what is best for his assets and wealth. Sam says that if Jake wants to make a will, he must appoint a trustee. It can be one person, several people, an organization, or a trust company. But Jake doesn't really focus on Sam's explanation. After discussing the will, Sam reported that everything for tonight's event was ready, and he would pick up the guests in 10 minutes. That night, Jack would meet his old friends and play poker. He decided to inject the truth serum as Bill had instructed. He also studied the data he had collected on all his friends in the rifle program, including their phone records and conversation recordings. While getting ready, Jake also apologized to Nicole in case something unexpected happened that night. Michael had already arrived at the hotel meeting point, followed by Paul, who was now a minister. Meanwhile, Alex, a successful writer, was staying at the hotel. Unbeknownst to Jake, he had been in a relationship with Nicole and planned to reveal the truth to Jake that night. They went to the parking lot, where Alex was already waiting. Sam greeted them and directed them all to the cars that had been prepared for each of them to go to a place called Pebble Cove. Soon after, they drove off. While racing playfully, Jake himself took a helicopter there and continued to monitor his friend's journey. Jake arrived first to ensure that all the crew, the banquet, and security were ready. He also prepared the wine banquet as perfectly as possible. For the poker game, Jake had hired his trusted dealer, Penelope. Jake made sure all the surveillance cameras were working, especially in the game room. He showed Penelope where the chips and cash were stored and reminded her that they would be playing Texas Hold'em. In short, they gathered in the wine room to make small talk. Jake presented the best wine and invited them to toast. Surprisingly, Jake said that the cars they had driven earlier could be theirs individually, or they could choose to take home $5 million in chips each. Jake then mentioned another rule. Everyone had to play while standing. Then, he gave Alex, as the first participant, the opportunity to decide whether they would choose the cars or the money. He then let Alex, Paul, and Michael discuss it. Alex was overwhelmed by the prize, which he thought was too much, and he suggested that they not play, but Michael said he needed the money and would play. Paul also needed money because he was in debt. In the end, Alex signed the agreement to play. They all moved to the game room, and Penelope began by explaining the game. Meanwhile, in the distance, Victor monitored their residence with his men Billy and Styx, planning to steal expensive artwork from the house and greet an old friend. The first round began, with each player raising the stakes higher and higher. The game flowed smoothly as they chatted and joked about their lives, though tension was evident on everyone's faces as they waited for the dealer to reveal the cards. Meanwhile, Rebecca discovers a will on the living room table and calls Nicole for an explanation. Nicole reluctantly reveals that Jake had undergone a vasectomy without telling her, but the more shocking news comes from Rebecca. Rebecca admitted that she found her father's medical records, saying that Jake was dying, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Nicole was completely taken aback, promising to pick up Rebecca to talk to her father. At midnight, Drew finally arrived to complete their reunion, and the game was paused for a moment. Drew informed them that Jake wanted the rifle program to be transferred to Alex, Paul, and Michael. Alex then said he felt sick, and Jake said he had put poison in each of their glasses. Jake revealed his reason for doing so, which was that he didn't want to die alone, and thus Jake's pancreatic cancer diagnosis, which he had hidden from Rebecca and Nicole, was revealed. Michael took out his gun and said he had intended to shoot himself, but Jake had stopped him. He admitted he had been depressed and that death no longer scared him. Paul then opened up about losing a lot of money due to someone extorting him. A video of him with a girl was threatened to be leaked if he didn't pay, and now he was unsure what else he could give once his money ran out. Drew forced him to reveal who was extorting him, and with a heavy heart, Paul answered it was his brother, Victor. Now it was Alex's turn to open up. He admitted that he was having an affair with Nicole. Not only that, Alex and Nicole were also expecting a child, which was why he was so afraid of dying tonight. After hearing this shocking confession, Jake said that the poison he had given them would not kill them. He just wanted them all to understand what it felt like to be afraid of dying like he was now. Jokingly, Michael asks if Jake has enough time left to finish tonight's game, and they all laugh to lighten the mood. Sam then talks about the trust fund. and Jake says he will distribute some of his shares in the form of chips worth $25 million. Meanwhile, Victor and his gang kidnapped one of Jake's workers and forced him to reveal the code for the automatic gate. However, they had to wait while Penelope passed by. The young man said the gate was very strong and difficult to break down, even if hit by a car. Threatened with death, the young man was forced to reveal the correct code. After that, they sneak inside, unaware that Jake and the others are watching their arrival on CCTV cameras. Seeing the uninvited guests, Jake tells all his friends to leave through the basement. Victor and his two men argue over which artwork is truly valuable. Then, they sneak further inside. Billy then found the stairs leading down to the wine cellar and poker room, where they saw several half-filled glasses and lit cigars. Victor casually drank wine from one of the glasses, while Jake and the others kept watch, remembering that they had no weapons to protect themselves. The house was filled with famous paintings, and the game room was no exception. Victor saw a large monitor lit up and monitoring them. He approached the monitor and greeted Jake, saying he knew Jake was still in the house and he just wanted to steal a painting. Then, Victor told Billy to check the other corners. In the panic room, Jake thought about how they could fight back, while the only person with a gun was Michael, and it only had one bullet left. Michael said they had a chance of winning, because there were only 3 of Victor's men, but Jake said that the 3 of them had guns. He advised them to just wait in the panic room because the poison he accidentally drank would work harder if he tried to fight them. Meanwhile, Styx found a painting that was really expensive for them, and he and Billy had a difference of opinion. Billy claimed to have seen a more valuable painting in another room. Just then, Nicole and Rebecca suddenly arrived, completely unaware of what awaited them. Rebecca called out for her father, but it was Victor and his men who answered. Nicole and Rebecca put up a fierce fight, but they were eventually overpowered. Styx and Billy tied them up in the game room, not wanting them to get hurt. Finally, Jake emerged from the panic room carrying Michael's pistol. Victor still seemed to hold a grudge against Jake, but he wasn't intimidated. He wasn't sure Jake was a good shot. He tried to negotiate, saying that if Victor only wanted to steal the painting, the one in the kitchen was the most expensive, according to Styx's estimate. Victor told Styx and Billy to go get the painting, while he and Jake continued to aim at each other. Nicole asked where the others were, and Jake said they were all sick from the poison. Jake slowly approached Victor and tried to talk to him. He finally told him that the glass Victor had just drunk from was poisoned. Victor didn't believe him at first. After all, why would he poison his own friend? Jake made up a story that he knew Nicole was cheating on him with one of his friends, which was why he had poisoned their glasses. Jake didn't answer Nicole's question about Alex's condition. Instead, he offered to open the safe, take the money and the antidote Victor needed. Then he lowered his weapon and walked slowly toward the safe. Meanwhile, the other friends crept out of the room in panic and worked together to beat up Styx and Billy, who were operating in the dark. Jake then injected the truth serum in a high dose, but before he could give it to Victor, Victor snatched the syringe from Jake and injected himself. He thought he would escape with the money from the safe, but his condition worsened. He staggered out of the house and eventually collapsed. As Bill had said, the high dose of truth serum would kill him. On the other side, Alex and his friends untie Nicole and Rebecca. Sometime later, Jake passes away, and Drew, Michael, Paul, and the others gather to discuss the distribution of Jake's inheritance. Half of Jake's fortune is distributed to 21 charities and foundations, in the hope that the money will be useful to those who need it most, including families affected by gambling addiction. Sam read the will to each of them. To Drew, Jake had given full control of their 2 companies. There would be a schedule for future profits involving all of Jake's friends and family. He advised Paul to quit his political career because it wasn't the right field for him, hoping that the $50 million would be enough to help Paul recover financially. To Nicole and Alex, Jake distributed $50 million, along with funds for their children. To Michael, Jake also gave $50 million, but he wanted Michael to undergo rehab to recover from his alcohol addiction, believing Michael could achieve what he wanted in life. Meanwhile, he apologized to Rebecca for not being able to tell her the truth. He had left the rest of his fortune to Rebecca in her account, and he wanted Rebecca to manage the funds as best as she could. He also advised her that Jake's friends, whom Rebecca considered her uncles, might not be perfect, but she had to learn to forgive their imperfections. Jake wanted Rebecca to listen to them, as his friends had played an important role in his life's journey, especially Drew. As a final note, Jake hoped Rebecca would grow up to be someone who knew how to make her life meaningful,